Hey, one half of your forklift certified jobbers, Eli here, coming at you with another book review. This one is going to be a little bit more free flowing. Um, I did mention at the end of my review before You're Dead by Sam Sachs that I would be reviewing Stephen King's The Stand next. However, I started on an audiobook on Audible of The Gunslinger by Stephen King. And I ended up finishing that first because it's about 7 hours on Audible. I don't know the page number, but that's a much shorter book than The Stand, which is about 50 hours on Audible. So I finished The Gunslinger first. So we're going to come at you with a review that's a little bit more loose because I do have a harder time with audiobooks, like just really retaining the information as much as I do like reading a physical book. But reading fiction is not about retaining information. It is about having fun, enjoying a story, getting lost in a world. And boy, let me tell you, you get lost in this world by Stephen King so fast. The first lines of this book are the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. Immediately I was hooked by the first sentence and I was drawn into this kind of retro future apocalyptic wasteland type world that Stephen King has crafted in this series. Now, let's have a little bit of a background before we get super deep into The Gunslinger by Stephen King. The Gunslinger is the first book in the Dark Tower series. Now, for any fans of Stephen King, they will know that all of his books take place in the same kind of literary universe. The biggest example of this that I can think of off the top of my head is the concept of shining, taken from the novel, the famous novel, The Shining. Shining is this kind of psychic power that some people have and some people don't. In universe, I think Stephen King's rules for it are every mother has a touch of shine when it comes to her kids specifically. Like she has intuitions, feelings, things she can't really understand, but she knows when things are occurring with her kids. And honestly, crazy hot take here, that might be real. That might be in real life because I know for a fact my mother has had intuitions about things that were happening to me that she cannot explain. No one can explain. So leave a like or a comment if you think that Shining is real. It definitely could be. But all of his books take place in the same universe. And if this story is happening over here, and this story is happening over here, and this story is happening over here, which is how most of them are. There's not very strong connections between any of his books. The Dark Tower is the story that's happening up there, where it is the kind of overarching tale of his entire universe. And what it follows is a man named Roland Deschain and his journey and search for the Man in Black. The Man in Black, he is the main villain of The Stand, I believe. In there, he's called Randall Flagg. In this book, it is made known that his name is Walter O'Dim. The Man in Black is this sorcerer. He has dark magics and powers like you couldn't believe. And he's so built under this idea of like chaos and nastiness and just making sure that everybody's day around him gets worse. Throughout this story, we're following Roland as he is chasing the Man in Black across the desert. We have a few flashbacks to Roland's childhood. I really liked these because they gave a little bit more backstory and context as to what is going on in this universe. Roland is from a place called Gilead, and he is the last of an ancient order of gunslingers. These kind of, I imagine that they're kind of like knights. I'm only one book into the series, so that imagining may end up being different as I get further through it. But these were very interesting. You see the kind of trials and tribulations that lead up to someone becoming a gunslinger, of which Roland becomes the youngest gunslinger ever. Eventually, across his journey, Roland, he comes across a boy named Jake, and Jake is from our world, like physical planet Earth. He is from there, and he appears in this world. And he doesn't really have an explanation for how he got there. And Roland, at the beginning, he kind of thinks that Jake might be some trick, some illusion that the man in black has like thrown to him, because Walter O'Dim will do the absolute most pettiest thing just to hurt Roland a little more, just to twist the knife just a little bit further. And Roland is very used to this. Jake is not the first time that he thinks that Jake is not the first time across this book that Roland thinks that someone he's meeting is just an illusion created by the man in black just to mess with him. So he keeps Jake at a distance for the very beginning. He only calls him the boy, but he ends up kind of forming this bond with Jake, and their relationship is very cool. It's very endearing, but Roland is never able to shake, at least in this book, this feeling that something terrible is going to happen between him and Jake, and he's very worried about that. I'm going to make a big X here. This is where there's going to be some spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers, fast forward to the part of the video where I will make this sign with my hand again. Okay, so at the end of the book, Roland and the man in black come face to face with each other, and Roland is kind of caught under the man in black, Walter O'Dim. He's caught under his spell. He's not really able to attack him. He's not really able to do anything. And the man in black, he takes this time to really wax poetic on the nature of the universe and the nature of the Dark Tower, which we've heard of, but we've not seen. And this really establishes the stakes for the future novels. So how Walter O'Dim, the man in black, Randall Flagg, all of those, how he explains it is the universe is made up of trillions of galaxies, and in those trillions of galaxies, there are trillions of planets in each of those galaxies, and across each of those, there are trillions of worlds, trillions of things, and that the sheer scale and size of the universe is so unknowable. And I think he uses the example as a blade of grass. When you zoom in on a blade of grass, you realize it's not solid. It's atoms moving around, bouncing around, like they are their own separate tiny worlds. And the man in black theorizes that the entire universe that we're in could be a single blade of grass within another universe. And if you just keep moving outwards and looking further, that eventually you will come to the Dark Tower, a point at the center of the universe that stretches so high you can be at the top and you would see everything, every universe, every possible configuration of the world. But would you want to? What would being in the top of that room really do to you if you had seen it? And the man in black, it's also made known here that he is a mere servant of someone else. I don't know if he's mentioned completely in this or mentioned by name in this, but I do know that this is the Crimson King. This is who the man in black serves, and understanding the sheer scale of everything that is going on, and that the man in black, this horrible villain, just like the most scummy and petty and terrible person that we've read throughout this whole book, is just a servant of something else, is very, very interesting to see where the rest of that goes. I'm going to flash up this X again because we're done with the spoilers. I really liked this book. I thought it was very good. I did have some bits where I was kind of like zoning in and out, but that is also just the nature of an audiobook. for me at least. Leave a like or a comment on your opinion of the audiobook experience. But I've always found that I'm much more focused and attentive when I'm reading a physical book. But I did really like this, and I am very interested to see where the rest of this goes, and I'm very interested to see more and more little connections that tie it into other Stephen King literary works. Overall, I am thinking of 3.5 stars out of 5 on this. Really liked it, really interested to see where the rest of this goes. All right. Leave a like, a comment, a subscribe, all that normal YouTube stuff. And also, our podcast releases on YouTube. We try to go weekly, but not 100% sure how that'll shake out. It kind of comes out down to schedules. We're also on Spotify at Forklift Certified Jobbers. So definitely give the podcast a listen. I mean, we talk a little everything. We talk a little wrestling, little books, little TV, little news, little movies, little comics. There is nothing under the sun that we won't talk about if it interests us. So maybe there will be something that interests you in those podcasts. The Gunslinger, Stephen King, 3.5 stars. Really looking forward to the rest of it. Hopefully I will finish The Stand and then give that to you as my next review. All right. Thank you.